friends, welcome back to Truthatude. My name is Lindsay Servine, and if you are returning, thank you so much for your support. I love you all. If you are new to my channel, this is Truthatude TV. My name is Lindsay, and every week I talk about how to build confidence and the different issues that we as women face when it comes to building and maintaining our confidence. So today I want to talk about one of the biggest roots of confidence, but before I get into that, a little hair update. The pink is gone, and I loved the pink, but man, it was such crazy maintenance, and I didn't love damaging my hair and dyeing it every month. Also, I couldn't find a permanent magenta color. I like the darker magenta pink. I don't really like the hot pink. So if you can find and you know of a permanent magenta color, then I will do it. I will sacrifice my beautiful hair and I will bleach it again and do the pink because I really do love it. Anywho, getting back into it. So one of the major components of self-confidence, true, deeply rooted self-confidence, is self-advocacy. So I'm doing a two-part series on self-advocacy. This week we'll be diving into part 1 and next week will be part 2, so be sure to check out both videos. So today we are going to be talking about learning to say no. Learning to say no and how and when to stand up for ourselves, especially as women, is super important to building and maintaining our self-confidence. As women, we generally do struggle with saying no, and it's something that we have to practice at because, society wants us to be polite. They want us to be agreeable. They want us to be people pleasers, and many of us are, and this is something that we struggle with. And if you are somebody who struggles with saying no, then stay tuned because I'm going to talk about different situations that we do need to say no and how to get better at saying no. There are a ton of articles, blogs, books even about how powerful the word no is. I think there's even a book called The Power of No. Yeah, there is, by James R. Tucker, that's his name. I had to look at my notes. And then there is a very famous quote by Annie Lamott. No is a complete sentence. And I even think that quote was turned into a book. I'm pretty sure it was. Actually, I know it was. I just can't remember her name. So, no is extremely powerful, and learning when and how to say no to others and also to ourselves is super important to building confidence. So let's dive in. The first component of saying no is learning how to say no to others. Their demands, their requests. This is kind of the most common thing that we'll run into when we need to say no. Demands on your time, people who want you to show up for things, demands for your attention. People want you to do things for them. People want you to give them things. People want you to talk to them in a certain way. There are a lot of different instances where people demand things from us or request things from us, and we need to practice telling them no. Any kind of disrespect, saying no to disrespect, whether that's from somebody else, whether that's from the media that you're consuming, or whether that's from yourself. Also, abuse. It can be abusive behavior, it can be abusive language. You need to learn how to say no and safely de-escalate a situation or safely exit a situation. If you are in an abusive relationship, an abusive environment, maybe you're experiencing some abusive language from somebody in your life, you need to find the courage and practice getting out of that situation safely. I know that that is tough. Depending on your situation, it could be really scary, really hard, and seem even impossible, but you deserve to be safe and to be loved and to be respected. So if you are in any kind of abusive situation or somebody is using abusive language to you, talking to you in an abusive way, whether that's family, friends, your lover, your colleague, your boss, it is time to say no to abuse. Another really big and important part of saying no is saying no to the narrative that other people have of you, the story that people have created about you. You get to decide and you get to control the narrative that people have of you. Now, you cannot control what people think of you, but you get to decide who you are and how you present yourself to the world. And when anybody else challenges that, you have to say no to them and be like, no, that is not who I am. These are my values. This is what I stand for. Your opinion of me is incorrect. You can continue to have that opinion of me, but you're wrong. Always defend yourself. When somebody attacks your character, you know yourself better than they do, and you control the narrative that other people have of you. You cannot control what they think of you, like I said, or how they feel about you, but you can control how you behave, how you speak, how you treat others. And so when somebody has a negative narrative of you or a negative story of you, and they try to share that with other people, as long as you are being authentic, those other people are not going to believe that person's negative narrative of you. So really get sturdy in your values and your behavior and the way that you speak to people and the way that you treat people. And that is how you control the narrative, and you are saying no to other people's story about you. It's complicated, but it's super important. Saying no to unhealthy connections. This includes toxic relationships, whether that's toxic friendships, toxic family members, a toxic lover, a toxic colleague or boss. It's hard, especially when it's your job, but you are not stuck in your job forever. You have options, even if it doesn't feel like it. Start looking. If you're in a toxic relationship at work, you need to find a way to get out. Something you may not think about in regards to unhealthy connections is saying no to being a people collector. Now, this was something that I really struggled with. I had to work on this so much. I was a people collector and I didn't even know it. What do I mean by this? Well, I really took it personal, especially when I was younger, when all of the people that I cared so much about didn't necessarily care about me. I wanted to be involved with everybody. I wanted to keep tabs on everybody and keep involved in their life. I mean, we're talking like everybody I went to 6th grade with. And I took it really personal that they didn't want to include me in their daily life, and they didn't want to communicate with me on a regular basis. And I learned that people naturally grow apart and relationships dissipate. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong or they don't care about you or they don't like you. It's just people fall into their own paths. And I really did take it personal for a really long time. And I had to realize that not everybody you went to middle school with is gonna be your lifelong friend. And I know that this sounds crazy, but I really did take it personal for a really long time because I really valued my friendships, especially the ones that I made when I was younger. And when people started to go off and live their own lives, I kind of felt left out. And I realized that it had nothing to do with me. It was just my bad habit that I learned of being a people collector. And I think that probably stemmed from being abandoned by so many people in my early childhood that I had abandonment issues, and in order to control that, I became a people collector, and that meant I really tried to keep in touch with people that I didn't need to, and try to be involved in people's lives that, they had moved on. And so I really encourage you to take a look at your life and the effort that you're putting into a lot of relationships. Are you being a people collector? And if so, it's time to let that go. And trust me, it's a lifelong process. And when people move on with their lives, they're not, it's nothing to do with you. You don't have to take it personal. Just wish them well and send them love and send them light, but release them. When you let go of toxic relationships and you stop being a people collector, it puts you in a very powerful position. You get to choose who comes with you on this journey of life. You have the power to decide. It is an incredibly powerful position to be in. You get to decide who comes with you and who doesn't. Now, There is a very big difference when you're deciding who to keep and who to let go of in your life and to clean up your circle. There is a big distinction that I want to make. You need to release people who are unsupportive of you, but not necessarily just because they disagree with you. I am not advocating that you should only surround yourself with people who agree with you, because then you would never grow, you would never learn. Don't get rid of your people in your circle just because they disagree with you. That's not mature, and that's not going to serve you. I'm only talking about getting rid of relationships that are genuinely toxic, abusive, negative, not pushing you forward but holding you back. So I wanted to make that distinction because I really don't think that people need to surround themselves with everybody who agrees with them or has the exact same values and vision of them. That's not realistic, and that's not going to help you in the long term. So I just think that's important to say. So now that we've talked about how to say no to others and the different circumstances that surround that, I want to bring it back to ourselves. And learning to say no to ourselves is tricky. Learning and growing and personal development and self-improvement, or whatever you want to call it, is a lifelong journey. It is a marathon and not a sprint. There is no finish line. So with that in mind, it is important to learn how and when to say no to ourselves. Now, an instance would be saying no to bad habits. Are you someone who has a bad habit that isn't serving you, is unhealthy, is affecting your work, your relationships, your growth as a person? Saying no to bad habits. Now, one bad habit that I've been working on for my life basically is perfectionism. I really struggle with trying to make everything perfect, and I know logically that I'm not perfect. I will never be perfect. Nothing I do needs to be perfect, but I struggle, and sometimes I let it get the best of me. And I always come back to this quote, not to let perfect be the enemy of good enough. And I read that every single day if I'm getting frustrated on something. And I think it's important to remember that's just one of my bad habits. And I'll tell you another funny, really bad habit that I have, and I've been actively working on this. It was actually a New Year's resolution for me. I am a really terrible interrupter. And it's not that I don't think what the other person is saying is important or valuable. It's just I get really excited about what I want to say, and I get really excited about what they're telling me, and I want to like add to it or like congratulate them or kudos them, and I have a really hard time interrupting. So it's something that I'm working on. So, you know, I have bad habits too, but if it's time for you to kick that bad habit, that is one way, and a powerful way, to say no to yourself. Another big issue that I think we face as women is saying no to harmful self-talk. That can be abusive language that we use with ourselves. That can be just negative, putting ourselves down kind of talk. So I really encourage you, as you have a conversation with yourself daily and throughout the day, making comments to yourself or about yourself to other people, really watch what you're saying and change the relationship that you have with yourself by saying no to that negative, harmful self-talk. I also want to encourage you that if there is any kind of abusive behavior that you're doing towards yourself, any kind of damaging behavior, please love yourself, respect yourself, and honor yourself, and say no to that abusive behavior if you're participating in it. I know for me, when I was younger, I went through a phase of self-mutilation, and I was a little bit of a cutter, and I also would pierce things. And I didn't realize this when I was younger because I was acting out and processing trauma, but now as an adult and years of study, I realized that this was a form of self-mutilation. It was self-abuse. And so to all my lovely, beautiful sisters out there, if you're hurting and you are turning that inward and you're abusing yourself in some kind of way, please please find help. I will leave links in the description box with some resources for you, but please honor yourself, love yourself, respect yourself. You deserve to live the most beautiful life, and I love you, and you deserve to love you too. Basically, in one big giant picture of saying no to ourselves and saying no to others, it is basically learning to say no to whatever or whomever does not serve your highest good or serve where you want to go in life or ultimately who you want to be. So, how do we get better at saying no? Well, obviously it takes practice. Start with yourself. Are there any bad habits that you need to kick? We're rounding out 2020, which has been one hell of a year for all of us. So moving into 2021, is it finally time to stop smoking, girl? Yeah. Is it time to cut back on the drinking or cut back on the processed foods? Is it time to start moving your body every day in some healthy way? So are there any bad habits that it's time to say no and just kick to the curb? Evaluate your lifestyle. How are you spending your time? Are you in control of your time, or is somebody else dictating how you spend your time? What can you say no to? It's time to spend your time your way. And I know that that's not always ideally possible, but you can say no to invitations or activities that aren't serving you to your highest good or moving you forward in a goal that you have for yourself. You can say no in small ways. So examining your lifestyle and evaluating your habits is one way that you can practice saying no. Another way that you can practice saying no is to get very clear on your values and your vision for your life. What is acceptable for you and what is not? Who do you want to surround yourself with, and are they in alignment with your values? Where do you want to go in life? What is your vision? What values are going to get you the life that you deserve? Live by those. Also, look at what messages are you consuming on a regular basis. Is your Facebook feed filled with negative, nasty, unserving content? Is it time to clean up your Facebook feed? Maybe unfollow some things, join some positive groups. What kind of, things are you listening to? What kinds of things are you reading? Are you inundated with bad news all the time? You can say no to those negative things that you're consuming in the media space, and that's one really good way to practice saying no. Another one is, are you listening to negative chatter or gossip? Are you surrounding yourself with people who talk about ideas, goals, dreams? Or are you surrounding yourself with people who talk about other people? Now, don't get it twisted, okay, because I love me some good chisme, but if you're constantly chismosa or you're surrounding yourself with gossips, it's time to reevaluate that. Start spending your time with people who talk about ideas and, topics that are of interest to you, books, goals, dreams, movies, things that are exciting, things that have substance, instead of just gossiping, okay? By the way, my laundry is done. Woo! In case you heard it in the background. We keep it real around here, okay? Another thing to evaluate and practice saying no is, how do you talk to yourself? And how do you talk about yourself to other people? Is it negative? Do you put yourself down? When you're with other people, do you make yourself the butt of the jokes? Or do you exude confidence and know that you bring so much value to your group of friends? And do you make jokes about fun, light things? And do you, encourage others? And do you talk lovingly to yourself? It's time to say no to that negative, nasty self-talk once and for all, and it does take practice. Believe me, girl, it does. And I know that looking inward and saying no to our negative habits and our negative thoughts and our negative self-talk is hard. It is a lifelong journey, and it takes practice. So be gentle with yourself, be patient with yourself. You may get frustrated, especially when you're trying to kick those bad habits, girl, because we know it's rough in these streets. to make ourselves better, but ultimately you want to be the best version of you, and I want you to be the best version of you because you deserve it. So practice saying no to that negative influence in your life, negative person in your life. Practice saying no to the nasty habits you have, the negative self-talk, and I promise you, you will blossom into the best version of you, and it's gonna be amazing because the world is excited to have you. Another thing that I want you to do to practice saying no is to really evaluate your circle, your friends, your family, your partner, your colleagues. Are they in alignment with your values? And like I said, not just people who disagree with you, but who are unsupportive. Is it time to let them go? You'd get to decide who stays and who goes. So really ask yourself, is this relationship serving me? Am I my best self in this relationship? Decide who stays and who goes. And if there are people in your life who you can't necessarily get rid of, how can you keep them in a peaceful state? I talk about this in a lot of my videos because I realize that you can't necessarily get rid of that colleague or that family member, but you can learn to keep them in a peaceful state by accepting them for who they are, not condoning their behavior, but accepting that that's who they are and deciding how you are going to show up in that space. That's how you maintain the peace with somebody when you can't necessarily get them out of your life. So look at the different situations, the different relationships, the different demands that you have on your time, and really ask yourself, is this serving my highest good? If it's not, then it's time to say no. And I want to also add, you do not need to explain yourself when you say no. No is a complete sentence, but if you get uncomfortable and you feel like you have to provide an answer, you can always say, you know, this doesn't serve me, or this doesn't contribute to my goals, or this just doesn't align with who I want to be, or this doesn't align with my values. It's going to make people uncomfortable when you say this, and it's going to start making people uncomfortable when you start saying no, but that doesn't matter. Their comfort is not your responsibility. Your self-advocacy is. Okay, so I know that saying no is really tough, especially for some of us who have not had a lot of practice. But it's really an important part of self-advocacy, and self-advocacy is a major component to true, deeply rooted self-confidence. So I want you to start practicing saying no and learning how to stand up for yourself. All right, ladies, that does it for part 1 of the self-advocacy series. Join me next week for part 2, where we learn how to say yes. Self-advocacy, like I said, is a huge root of confidence, true, deeply rooted self-confidence. And I really want that for all of you. I want all of my sisters to be truly, deeply rooted, self-confident women so that we can go out and conquer the world together and lift each other up. So I really hope that you liked this video. I hope that you got some value out of it. If you did, give it a big thumbs up and like it. That really does help us grow and honor this community. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I would also highly encourage you to follow me on social media. I will leave the links in the description box below. I post a ton of content there. Also, if you want more content, you can always head over to the blog, Truthatude.com. I'm always putting juicy little nuggets on there, so definitely check it out. I will leave the link in the description box for you. Thank you so much for watching. I love you all. And as always, stay true to the Truthatude. Ciao. Oh God, situated. Oh, that was my knee. Oh yeah, the video came out so good. It's so good. Oh, you're looking like a diamond. So we got a little bit. Oh good, I'm getting older.